You're listening to the Heart and Soul podcast with Kathryn Banco. I'm on a mission to celebrate breakthrough, empowerment, and shameless living in the lives of women everywhere. Join me and let's live unashamed together.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Heart and Soul. Today I am joined by Betsy Armstrong, all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada, so across the country, who just wrote a memoir called The Mother of All Decisions, which is a memoir of mother loss, legacy, and adopting kids in midlife. It's a story of resilience and hope and leaving a legacy. And so I'm excited to talk to you today, Betsy, and get to know you a little bit better.
Hi, Kathryn. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's great to be here.
Yes. Okay, so why don't you start off by just telling my listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Okay. Well, I'm Betsy Armstrong. I'm a mom, a writer, an athlete, and a philanthropist. And right now, the writer persona is highest on that list just because, well, my kids are in their 20s, so that helps. But yeah, I once I adopted my kids, I kind of went a little nuts because I'd worked since I was 15 years old, and we adopted them when I was 48. So I quit my dream job to raise my kids, who were 10 and 12, from Russia at the time. They didn't speak any English, so they needed a lot of support. And so I quit my job and I kind of went nuts once I got them in school. I decided I need to do something. And I've been journaling since I was 15. And so I just decided to take something that I was already doing and turn it into, a hobby at first. And then it became a book. Surprise, surprise. 12 years later, it only took that long.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. I want to hear more about adopting your children, especially at that age and especially from a foreign country coming in and not knowing our language. Will you walk me through the process of what led you to adopt? And then we'll get into just the process of adoption itself.
Sure. So I was very much a person who is achievement oriented, and I never thought I'd have kids. The home I grew up in was pretty dysfunctional, and I did not want to repeat the patterns that happened in my growing up years. So I just kind of thought, I'm not going to have kids. That's just one way of avoiding any of the drama. And my mother got sick when I was 23, and she was 46. And she died from diagnosis to death. It was 5 months. So she passed away quite quickly. I talked with her a lot. I was one of her primary caregivers. And I talked with her a lot about what she would have wanted in her life. She was so just stunned and saddened by the fact that her life was suddenly going to be so short. And there were things she had wanted to do. And she talked to me about that. And those are really painful conversations to have with a dying person, knowing that they're not going to get to do what they had wanted. So it really stuck with me. And immediately after she died, I went on this whirlwind of, I'm going to run marathons. I'm going to do triathlons. I'm going to, get an awesome job, a corporate job, and make lots of money. And I did all those things. And the running gave me a lot of joy, but it just wasn't enough. And at a certain point in my life, actually, when I was looking at my 47th birthday, when I was going to be a year older than my mom, suddenly the idea of kids just came into my head. And I thought, if I don't at least try this, I'm going to regret it. And for me, regret is like the thing that makes me go from no to yes. If I think I'm going to regret something or not doing something, I'm going to do it. Doesn't matter how big it is, how long it's going to take, I'm going to do it. So I looked at adoption that way, and we had done a lot of research over the years. My husband definitely wanted kids. He was more of a yes and I was the no. And we decided, hey, there's got to be 2 yeses for this situation. I'm sorry, my throat is so dry. I don't know why.
That's okay.
I need a sip.
Take a sip, girl.
Thanks. So yeah, I kind of was looking at my 47th birthday, and a couple friend of ours, had adopted two girls from a Russian orphanage 4 years before. And she had sent me emails about the program that they went through every single year. And it just so happened I got this email and I forwarded it to my husband and just kind of with very flippantly saying, want to adopt some kids in the subject line. And he wrote back by not saying yes or no, but inviting me to the information session
Wow.
about the kids that we ultimately adopted. So that's what, yeah, I woke up, I went, I'm going to be older than my mom. I kind of thought I was going to die like she did, unfortunately, but it didn't
Well,
happen. So here I am.
I would imagine after losing your mom when she was such a young age and you were such a young age, that's like a perspective shift that unfortunately comes in tragedies like those.
Totally,
And it
totally.
sucks that sometimes it takes something as awful as that to happen for us to kind of wake up and be like, what do I
Mm,
want? Like, how am I going to spend the rest of my life on this earth? And then to have
mhm,
those hard conversations with your mom, like I
mhm.
get a little emotional thinking about it because,
Yeah,
like, I mean, my mom's like my best friend. So
right.
I'm thinking about how much I have needed my mom I'm almost 40, even into my
Yeah.
30s, and to lose
Mhm.
that so young and then to have her be like, I don't know what the word I would use. I guess wise enough to share with you like this is what I wish I would have done, and for you to be bold enough to ask those questions. I'm sure
Mhm.
it did prevent or provide a wake up call of like what do I love to do? How am I spending this precious life?
Right, right. And it is a really strange feeling when you realize that you've been living your life thinking it's going to end at a certain point, and then you
Mm,
get past that point. For me, anyway, um, I had never in a million years thought I'd end up with children. Like it was really pretty strong in my heart that that just wasn't a path. And so, yeah, I surprised everyone.
yeah,
My
even
friends
your
were like, "What are
husband.
you doing?" And my husband.
Yeah.
But he was like, "Okay, she's yes, let's go."
Well, you mentioned earlier that you had a tough growing up, and
Mhm.
that's why you didn't want to have children. Would you mind sharing a little bit of where you came from and why that kind of put a block on children for you in the first place?
Sure. Yeah. So when I was 10, my parents got divorced, and my mom immediately kind of turned around and married a man who wanted her very badly, but did not want her children. So, I was suddenly thrust into this family where I was the youngest. I have one older brother with my real parents, if you want to call him that. And then I had two stepbrothers suddenly. From 10 to 23, I grew up in this family where there were four kids, two parents, and the dynamic was very much skewed toward my stepbrothers get everything, they're not in trouble. My brother and I got a lot of emotional abuse, and my brother was physically abused. My mom tried to leave him many times. And there's stuff in my book about it, just how she would take me, we're going to grandma's. And then we never actually get to grandma's. She would turn around and we'd always go back home. And then when my mom passed, my stepdad, he completely disinherited me and my brother. So not only did I see this dynamic when my mom was alive, after she died, the family just totally disintegrated. And at
Wow.
23, I didn't have a mom, I didn't have a stepdad, I didn't have my stepbrothers. I only had my brother, and he was already married, with his high school sweetheart. So it was just so lonely. I mean,
Yeah.
I it hurt my heart to think that like, wow, my childhood home, I can't even get in there and get pictures, of my mom and me. I can't get any heirlooms or things that meant things to me, but not to my stepdad. So not only did that turn me off from children, it really it made it difficult to have relationships.
I would
And
imagine. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's kind of funny. I right before I met my husband, I had this pattern of dating guys. I'd date them for like 3 months. And as soon as there was like some, I don't know, I think this could go somewhere, I might love you kind of feeling, I would freak out and I'd run away. And my running was not just an actual physical thing, it was some metaphor for my
Yeah.
personality. When things get rough, I like to run away from them. And so I had a therapist at the time, and I was talking about this guy who, a couple of months before I'd been all, oh, he's so great. I love him. He's wonderful. And all of a sudden I'm like, I want to break up with him. And she goes, I get it. Everything has an expiration date for you. And she goes, so you can't break up with him. You have to stay for 2 weeks. And I'm like, no, I don't want to.
Wow. She saw it. She was
She
like,
saw the pattern and she's like, we got to break this pattern. So I lasted a week and then I broke up with him. And then I met my husband. And at the 3-month mark, I had this conversation with the therapist. Jennifer was her name. Thank you, Jennifer, wherever you are now. And she was like, what if he's the one? And I thought, wow, what if he is the one? And she came to our wedding. So,
wow. So
mhm.
what made you at the 3-month mark? I mean, obviously her advice, but what about
Mhm.
him set him apart from other relationships that you're like,
Yeah,
oh, maybe I don't want to run?
it it's just that I could not find a reason to break up with him. And the
Yeah.
reasons I found to break up with guys were so dumb. Like, oh, you're too short. Like, I didn't know that going in. Oh, you drink too much. Oh, you don't drink enough. I mean, it was, you could just pull something out of a hat, and that's what I would use. And I have this very vivid memory of laying in bed and tears rolling down my face and just going like, "Oh, I'm so scared." I was so scared that if I trusted him with my heart, that he would break it. But
Yeah.
I also knew that my husband's name is Doug. We can call him that.
Okay, Doug.
That he wasn't like, he was a good guy. He is a good guy.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments in your life where you go, if I walk away from this, am I gonna regret not trying?
Yeah. And I
And
would imagine just like given your past of rejection and especially with your stepdad, like I cannot imagine. I would imagine that you were just trying to avoid it's like a defense mechanism, like just trying to avoid getting hurt so you would just run first.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
it takes a lot to break that generational trauma of like that's just the pattern you were raised in is like people leave, people
Yeah.
fight, people
Pe-
and then to be like
People
now I'm
fight,
just gonna like
people leave.
commit to someone is that's a big thing.
Yeah. I mean, commit. I think being a commitment phobe was maybe a little bit of what drew my husband to me. Because a lot of women, especially in their late 20s, early 30s, which is when we met, are kind of needy, and they're like, oh, my person has to be everything to me. And I was like, I want him to be part of my life, but not all of my life. And so,
Yeah,
and for me and for us, like, we've been married now 27 years, and it's been really awesome because we both respect each other's kind of independence and support each other's dreams. And it's really been nice. He's
that's amazing.
definitely my soft place to land. If I'm going to
Oh,
quote Dr. Phil, I can't believe I'm quoting him, but
he's got some good
he
mic
does. He
drop.
has a few Peggy
Okay.
statements.
So when you get married to Doug, did he
Mhm.
want children from the start?
Not from the start. No.
Okay.
I think, we were very much like, oh, we're in our, I was, what was I when we got married? 34 and he was 36. And so, fertility, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm already in my 30s. But I was not worried about it. I thought very much took it, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And a lot of people, when they end up adopting kids, they feel that it's sort of like, oh, I tried to have my own baby. I went through a lot of infertility stuff. I didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
And so I feel sometimes like people look at me and just assume a lot of things, and assume things about my children, like that, oh, they're second best just because, they didn't
Oh,
come out of my body. And that's not at all the case. These are the perfect, these were the perfect children for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get married. We're having a good life. He's working at a business consulting firm. I had, as part of my no regrets lifestyle, had quit my corporate job before I met him to go back to grad school to become a therapist. Because my therapist changed my life. I was
Yeah.
like, I want to do this. I want to change people's lives. And so, I went back to grad school and graduated just as we got married. So I was working in the mental health space. And we had a really great life, lots of friends. His family is big and loving, and we're like just a hug for me. I mean, his mother's,
Everything you needed that you didn't have.
they healed me. Yeah, in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. I'm like, it still astounds me that like there's four children in this family. They choose to vacation together. They hang out together all the time. And that's
Right.
just not the family I grew up with. It's really been awesome. I think watching his siblings, have their kids and getting to know them, I could see why Doug wanted kids and would appreciate that, and our family would embrace them. It wouldn't be anything like what I experienced,
Right.
but I still just couldn't kind of let it happen. And along the way, I watched so many of my friends go through just, I mean, miscarriage after miscarriage and IVF after IVF, and is are they how many embryos, and can we just so many stories. And I think at that point in my life, I had lost so much,
Yeah.
frankly, because my dad had also died 7 years after my mom. So I was an orphan. I felt very orphaned in the world.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I couldn't bring myself to like do it. But then yeah, when I realized, oh my gosh, I'm gonna survive. I'm gonna live past 46. Okay, this is what I'm going to do now. And I mean, it was very serendipitous. My birthday's in December. This email came in December from our friends who had adopted saying, hey, the kids are coming next summer. Do you want to host some kids? Because we did a really interesting program called Bridge of Hope
Uh-huh.
that brings older or groups of older orphans to the US from, back then it was Russia and Ukraine, and they stay with host families for 4 weeks. So the kids who are all older, they get a chance to see where they might be going, and the parents get a chance to really know the child. International adoptions are so, I mean, you get a picture and a paragraph about a kid, and you're supposed
Wow.
to say, oh, this, yes, I feel it. And the whole time of our adoption process, which was from January of 2011 to October of 2012, is how long it took. Um, the whole time I was weighing my heart and going, is this right? Do I feel this? I don't know. I'm not sure. Like, I need a sign. I need a sign. And along the way, we had a failed adoption first,
Oh
from a
man.
sibling set in Ukraine, which was really hard. And when that fell through, after we'd hosted this little girl named Mia, her little brother was too young to come. And yeah, the Ukrainians unfortunately found two more siblings, and they told us that if we wanted to adopt her and her little brother, we had to take a 3-year-old and a baby too.
Wow.
And I was like going from 0 to 4 when I'm so, and our hosting with Mia, she clearly thought she had a family back in Ukraine that she was going to go back to. And the whole thing was just a big no. Like in my
Yeah.
heart, I was just the whole time going, if this is how it's going to be, I can't do it. I
Yeah.
was like this anxious ball of crazy, to be honest. I was just like, I can't sleep. I don't know. I can't eat. I don't know what to do with this little girl who's really not, she was so resistant to me and Doug. So, when that fell through, we found out about Andre and Svetlana. Spoiler alert to your listeners, there's an adoption. um, and I was, again, just a ball of nerves going, if this goes the same way, I can't do it. And the day we met them at O'Hare Airport in Chicago, where we lived at the time, um, I just remember there's this whole process where you have a translator and the kids ask you questions and you ask them questions. And one of the questions was, what do you want to call me? What do you want to call me? And him, Doug.
Yeah.
And Andre looked right in my eyes and he said, Mom and Dad. And
Oh, I'm
I was
getting
like, oh my
emotional.
God, totally. And I mean, I was just like, maybe that's the sign. Because one of the things about Mia was that apparently in the orphanage, the kids call their caregivers like Mama Betsy, Mama Kathryn.
Yeah.
So she would not call me Mama. That was a big thing with her. She's like, I don't need a mama. I have a mama. And
Mm.
so when Andre knew Mom and Dad were actual, like, what we call parents in our country, I was like, whoa, he wants
Yeah.
to be adopted. Like, he really wants this.
And
And he
so
just
his
met us.
sister, it was him and his sister, like
Yeah.
biological sister.
Yes. Yeah. You, at least at that point, they wouldn't let you adopt two kids at the same time unless they had a relationship already.
Okay.
Because especially with older
Yeah.
kids, it's really a challenge to, bond and bring them in your family and have them become your family.
And like how cool for them at that age. I mean, I would imagine being an orphan at 10 and 12. You said 10 and 12?
Yes.
For them to have each other in like a new environment, like a completely new environment.
Mhm.
That's a
Yeah.
comfort for them too, to have someone that's like been with them from the beginning kind of thing.
Yeah, and they're very close. They were and they are. And that's part of why we wanted to adopt too, because we felt like, it's really important to have a bond with a sibling. And I didn't want an only child. I feel like that's just kind of a repeat of my childhood. Even though I had all those brothers, they weren't really my brothers. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's beautiful. And it was kind of funny at first. Our house, we had two bedrooms, one for Andre, one for Svetlana, and they did not want to sleep separately. It was like, no, I have to be by my brother, my brother, my brother.
Oh.
Okay, you can. I mean, I don't care. We'll figure it out.
Wow.
But
So
yeah.
how long were they with you, not where you were not able to like speak the same language as them?
Well, the whole time that we hosted them, so for 3 weeks, and it is amazing what you can do with a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or like a teeter totter
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this good? Is this bad? What do you think?
Yeah.
And like Andre was so clever. He would do things like my Doug gave the kids like a $20 bill each because they were obsessed with American money. I'm like, you could have given them $1, not 20, but whatever. And so he had put the money in his jeans pocket and I had washed his jeans and he woke up in the morning and he was just like, he was looking for something and he's looking in like our dirty clothes hamper. And I'm like, Andre, what do you need? And so he goes and he gets a piece of paper and he drew a little pair of jeans. He drew a pocket on one side and a money sign and an arrow. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, you want your jeans with the money in the pocket. Let's go to the washer. And I pull them out and there's this $20 bill.
That's
So I'm
clever.
like, very clever, very smart. And it just endeared me to him even more, that he
Yeah.
was so upset about something, but that we were able to figure out a way to communicate. It was really, it was really fun in a way and frustrating in others.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I have never adopted children from a different country, but I have done like short-term like mission trips in other countries where
Oh,
we'll be there for like
yeah.
2 weeks, a week or two at a time, and you typically would work with children. And I remember before my first one was in Africa. I was in college, and I was thinking, how am I going to talk to these kids? Like, how are we going to connect? And
Yeah.
within like an hour, it's like you just find this kind of like unspoken, obviously, emotional
Hmm.
connection to these children.
Hmm.
And you kind of find that language isn't so much of a tough barrier to get through when it comes to love. Love can like
It
can go through.
transcends the barriers.
Totally.
Mhm.
And so when they were there for that 4 week, I guess, trial, I don't know what you would call that,
Hosting
hosting.
period. Yeah.
How long after that did the adoption take for it to be final?
Excuse me. Yeah, so they were with us December through January 2011 to 2012. And then they went back to the orphanage because that's how it goes. And then we fill out all this paperwork, 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 so
Yeah.
much paperwork. And and then in August, we got our invitation to court in Russia and went to Russia. Had a difficult time in court. This is in the book too. But to answer your question, we got through the court, and then there's a 30-day waiting period, and then we went back to Russia and brought them home. So October 3rd is our gotcha day. That's a thing in adoption circles.
Yeah.
The day that you get them, get
Yeah.
each other.
Wow. So then when they got here and it was finalized, did you have to like hire a translator or an English teacher, or how does that work? I mean, I would imagine that would take a while to.
Yeah, it was. It's a good thing I quit my job because
Yeah.
just figuring out how to care for them and get them all the things they needed was a full-time job. At one point, after the first 90 days, I counted, I took them to 30 appointments in 3 months. And it was with educational psychologists to determine their grade level. Um, the eye doctor, they were both legally blind without correction. So we were able to get like free books on tape. There's a program for that. If you're blind, you can do that. So they could read, like, look at a book and then also listen to it to learn the words. So they needed glasses. My husband got them contacts, which I'm like, honey, what are you doing to my mornings? You're going to kill me.
You're like, these, I have to put these in.
I know. And anyway, so yeah, I mean, it was just dentists. That was another thing. They'd had no dental care. And so we had translators. One funny story. Once I got them into school, I got a call from the school going, "Hey, Svetlana has lice." I'm like, "What do I
Classic.
do?" I thank God there's Google. I did not know what to do about this, so go to the drugstore, get the kit, bring her home, and she does. I mean, she's been with us less than a week at this point. So I call our translator, and I have him on the phone while I put her in the bathtub, and he's talking to her, and I'm like, "This is going in your hair. Do not touch it. Do not rub your eyes." Then I have to go, and she's just sitting there kind of shivering in the bathtub. And I felt like just the worst mom. But, we
Oh,
got through it, and she wouldn't let me put her hair in a ponytail. It was like, dude, you're going to get lice again. But hey, it all worked out.
wow. I mean,
Yeah.
parenthood is hard enough speaking the same language as my child. And I cannot imagine starting at that level of like, oh, we have to like not only learn each other at a certain age, but also like learn how to communicate with each other at the same time. That's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. And I was terrified because at first, they barely knew their last name or our last name.
Yeah.
They didn't know my phone number. It's like if they walked out of our house and somebody took them, they
Wow.
wouldn't even know who to call, what to do. So yeah, I mean, I was on high alert for a long time. My nervous system needed
I
to
was gonna say your anxiety was probably like through the roof, through the roof.
swam in the deep end of a pool of anxiety.
You're like, I think I'm going to become a mom and I'm going to do it this way. And it's going to be a lot more anxiety ridden. But what I love about your story is, I would imagine most of your childhood you didn't feel chosen. And so I almost feel like adoption for you was like a redemption story for your childhood of like, these are my children and I chose these specific kids to be my children at this age, and what a beautiful like rewrite of your childhood to like flip that narrative of maybe I didn't feel chosen as a kid, but I'm going to choose these children every day and
Yeah,
choose to like embrace this new world together.
exactly. And it really was for me. I mean, it I think that's in the epilogue of my book, but it is definitely something that I feel like it was a healing thing for me,
For sure.
and it makes me so happy that I was able to give that to these kids who had been failed time and again. I mean, when we went to court in Russia, and most of the time it takes between 4 to 6 hours, just one day in court. For us, it took 3 days in court, and I had to go through a whole day of medical exams because I have scoliosis. I put that in my home study, which is the document that everything goes. It's like the Bible of adoption. Once it's in
Yeah.
the home study, it's true. And I had been taking a medication for pain because of my scoliosis. And when I did the home study, and then by the time we got to court, it was a year and 7 months later, and I wasn't on the medication, but they kind of seized on this one sentence and put me through the ringer. And we really thought that they weren't going to allow us to adopt. This was just kind of a scam to get us to pay more money. And yeah, it was a really scary day. And it ended with the doctor assaulting me. Yeah.
Physically?
So yes, sexually.
Oh, oh my gosh.
Yeah. But at that point, I was just like, you know what? I will do anything for these kids. I don't care.
Wow.
I'll do anything because I'm not leaving Russia I'm not
Without these
abandoning them
children.
here. I knew what it felt like to be abandoned, and I did not want to do that to them. They already knew too.
Oh my gosh, I'm like in awe. That's
Wow.
crazy on top
I
of
know. It is
everything.
crazy. I know. I think about it and I'm like, wow, that really happened.
That is
So sorry to
nuts.
drop a bomb.
No, I didn't see it coming. It was like I was like, "Whoa." I'm so sorry that happened to you. That's nuts. It's just
I know.
nuts. Like,
It
it's
it was
unfair. What the
really
heck?
it was really just a power play by the doctor and totally unnecessary. But
My
the
goodness.
thing that they were worried about, and in Russia, the thing at that point, nobody can adopt anymore, unfortunately, because President Putin has shut that down. But the thing back then was that they wanted to make sure you weren't an addict or had cancer. Those are the two things that if you've ever had cancer, even if you're cancer free, you can't adopt. And if you've ever been an addict, even if you've been sober for 20 years, they won't let you adopt. And so
Wow.
really it was about putting me through all these tests to make sure I didn't have cancer. But it was not pleasant and so scary. But it has a happy ending, which is
Yeah.
good. And it also served to me, who was, constantly weighing, should I do this? Should I not? Like I wanted to do it for Svetlana and Andre, but this made me realize that like I really wanted this.
Yeah.
If I could have said no, and the doctor probably wouldn't have signed the form, and we would have just gone back to the US and not had kids.
Right.
Um, and so I was just like, I want these kids. And it was a moment of me choosing them and
Right.
saying, I'll do anything. So and that was in a weird way important to me.
Yeah.
Um, so even through
I
I
don't
thought
think
all
it's
the,
weird. I think it shows like a complete change of heart for you, of like, I didn't even want children and now I'm
yeah,
fighting so hard. I don't think that's weird. I think that's powerful. Like,
thank
like
you.
mothers are
Yeah.
resilient. Women are resilient, but mothers, there's another level of like, I will do anything
Hmm.
for this child. And you were already tethered
Yeah.
to them. So you were already their
Hmm.
mother and fighting for
Yeah.
them.
Yep. Yep.
How has motherhood changed you? Big question, I know. But
Um, it has. Wow, that is a big question. I think it's changed me in a lot of ways. One, I think I am a less selfish person. I definitely live my life very like I'm going to do this, and everyone can suck it.
yeah.
If you don't like it, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and you can't do that when you're a mom.
No.
It also has made me a much more anxious person, frankly. And I don't know if it is more tied to the fact of the assault and them coming home and all the just suddenness of being a mom to a 10 and 12-year-old who didn't speak English. but I'm still working on like trying to be calm in my life instead of being activated. That's a big
Yeah.
thing.
I would
Yeah.
imagine that would be a very anxiety-ridden time period. I mean, motherhood with with a newborn baby that you raise from the start is anxiety-ridden. So to have all those added elements to it is
Mhm.
a lot to handle.
It
And I
was.
imagine it kind of changed your nervous system a little bit. I
Oh,
feel like
just
that
a
would
little.
I feel
Yeah.
like that's completely natural. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
you know what? So good of you that you have this history with like therapists and
Mhm.
working on your mental health and even school, going to grad school for that to like have the tools in your toolbox to regulate that anxiety and recognize it
Mhm.
before it becomes,
Yeah.
dangerous. And so,
Overwhelming for sure.
wow. Okay, so then this book, your memoir.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Yes.
so bad at saying the word memoir.
Memoir? My memoir.
Memoir,
It's
memoir. I'm
okay.
like,
Memoir.
memoir. I'm so
Memoir.
Southern. I'm like, memoir.
I love it.
What I know you said you pulled from old journals, which is
Yes.
really cool that you've been writing since you were 15. But the
Mhm.
process of publishing a book, what was that like?
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, I started when we adopted them. I was kind of like, oh my God, I've been working all my life and they need me, but I have these hours in the day when they're at school where I could just sit and shake for a while, like physically to get all this energy out, or I could find something to do that was more productive, which is much more my personality. And since I've been writing in my journal and I'd always wanted to write a book, this is one another. It would have been a regret if I didn't write it. And I
Yeah.
finally felt like I had the time and the story because I was just like, wow. I'd read a lot of adoption memoirs and a lot of them are very saccharine and I don't know, just to me, there's no, for a book to be good for me, I like to see the ugly side and the beautiful side. I think
Right.
it's important to show both instead of just, oh, this is so wonderful. These kids are so wonderful. Like everything's great.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, "Well, that's not really that exciting. I mean, I'm glad, but so I felt pretty strongly about, talking about my childhood and what led me to adopt. And so the first part goes back and forth in time between us deciding to adopt and my childhood. And then there's a part two where it moves forward chronologically in time. And I felt like I had a story to tell. And I
Yeah.
started taking writing classes because my undergrad is food science. So that doesn't really match up with writing. And a lot of therapists write books. But I actually was I had started a nonprofit in Chicago that was Girls on the Run, which is
Oh, I've heard of that.
actually in North Carolina where you are, Molly Barker, the founder, that's where she's from. She actually blurbed my book because
Wow.
I started the Chicago chapter of that and grew it to where we were serving 10,000 girls and, in like 400 schools. And that I really thought was my legacy because it combined a lot of things that were dear to me. Running was huge in my life. Um, Girl power. I want still every woman, girl in America to realize her power that
Yeah.
we can do hard things, as Glennon Doyle says.
Mhm.
And Girls on the Run that's what they teach the girls. It's like life skills lessons, training for a 5K. And when the girls do the 5K and they cross that finish line, and you can just see, they're like, wow, I didn't think I could do that.
Mhm.
And now I can do other things. Like, what else can I do? And
Yeah.
that was when I ran my first marathon and I crossed the finish line. I heard my mom say that to me, like, look at what you've done, Betsy. What are you going to do now? And that question has always been in my head, like, what can I do now? What can I do that's bigger, that's going to make me better, that's going to change the world? And so, yeah, when I quit my corporate job and went off to, do nonprofit and mental health stuff, and I loved Girls on the Run. I'm still a huge supporter of them.
That's
But
amazing.
yeah,
I'm a runner as well. I used to do like marathons and triathlons and all that, but then I had two kids
yeah,
and everything stopped. But I still love to run, like everything.
yeah. I
And
figured heart and soul,
yes,
SOLE. I knew you had some kind of workout thing going on.
yes. So actually my business now, I run a fitness studio for women and
Oh,
And I love what you said about you can do hard things, because there is something so like spiritually and mentally like breakthrough happens
Yes.
when you conquer something physically, because then you realize like it wasn't just my physical body that got me through it. It was my mental strength. It was my community. It was the support. It was
Yes.
the
Yes.
the big step to sign up for the race and to actually
Mhm.
run it and train for it. And there is something really empowering about that for women. And I found that just through movement in general, outside of running as well, movement in
Mhm.
general, when you conquer like a workout together after an hour, you just find yourself like, even if you didn't even talk during class, you're like,
Mhm.
I have a deeper connection with this person because we did this together,
We
kind of.
just sweat together. We
Yeah,
just like wrung ourselves dry together. So
totally.
cool. I love it. Yeah. I
And
so
the fact that you were an endurance runner, I do think plays a lot into your endurance to get those children. Because
oh,
when you
totally.
have that mindset of like, I'm going to finish the race, whatever the race may be, whether it be like a metaphorical race or an
Mhm.
actual 26.2 mile race. I mean, I've run races where literal races where
Yeah.
at mile 22, I'm vomiting. I'm like, I get sick and I'm throwing up and I'm just like, how can I finish this thing? But I'm like, I am going to finish this race. I don't care if I walk across
Mhm.
the finish line. And so to build that like mental resilience from running to then go into adoption and all the like overcoming your story and then writing a book. And it's like, there's a lot of
Mhm.
mental resilience that you accumulate from being a runner. And it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And yeah, when I worked at Girls on the Run, one of the things we that I started was a charity running team. And now they're called Soulmates. So it kind of goes with your podcast a
I was
little
going to
bit.
say, like, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Uh-huh. And so they run a marathon and in honor of Girls on the Run and raise money. And when we started that, I'll never forget the first summer. Like I was kind of like the trainer, like, let's go for a run, everybody. We had 19 women and a whole bunch of them did, yes, they did the marathon, but then they made these other changes in their life. Like a couple got divorced because they weren't happy in their relationships. And then some others decided to change careers. And I just think it is such an empowering thing for a female, especially, to feel physically strong
Yeah.
and like, okay, I can kick some ass. Can I say that
Yeah.
on your podcast?
Say it.
Okay.
Say it, girl.
Because,
It's true.
yeah, I mean, and I want women to feel that way.
Yeah. I
So,
love that. I love that. And then you also now have this, and I love what you said about you didn't want to write a book that was almost like rainbows and butterflies of adoption,
mhm, right.
because authenticity also is what creates that connection and community. And people don't want to hear like, I have everything together and my life is perfect. I mean, they want to hear like, they want to have a Me Too moment with you of like, oh,
Exactly. Yeah.
I
I had doubts. Oh, that
yes.
didn't
Oh,
work
I get
out.
anxious.
Mhm.
Yeah. All those
Exactly.
things. And to have that type of vulnerability in your writing, I feel like is way more powerful than just being like, I'm this, badass woman who adopted 2 kids from Russia and that's that. And there's a lot more to vulnerability that is a lot more, vulnerability is strong, is strength. I can't talk, is strength.
Absolutely.
And
Mhm.
so I think it's really cool that you wrote it all down for people to experience with you. So where is the best place? Obviously, I'll put all these links in the show notes, but
Thank you.
where's the best place to get connected with you, to read your book? How can my
Sure.
listeners continue on your journey?
Okay, thanks for asking. They can go to my website, betsyarmstrong.com, BetsyArmstrong.com. And you can find my book, The Mother of All Decisions, on Amazon, on bookshop.org, any of the places you buy books. And I also recorded an audiobook, which hopefully will be up when my book is released, which is May 6th. So
Coming up.
pre-order, that helps, but you don't have to.
Actually, I'm looking at the calendar. Will this podcast, what's 2 weeks? Is the May 6th 2 weeks from now?
It's close for sure. May
Oh
6th.
yes. So this episode will be out May 7th. So
Oh,
your book will have just come out. So you can purchase this now, listeners.
yeah, you can.
What perfect timing for that.
Mhm.
Yay. So you can go in the show notes. I've put these links in the show notes so you can go click there, order her book, get to know Betsy a little bit more, and then follow her on social and all the things to stay connected with her.
Mhm.
Um, as she continues to be vulnerable and sharing her story.
Yes. This has been
Thank you so
fun.
much, Betsy.
Oh my gosh,
Yes.
it's been such a great conversation. I want to continue it at some point. I'd love to.
I know.
Want to know
If
about
my
you.
daughter wasn't about to wake up, we could continue talking,
It's
but
okay. You go give that little girl what she needs.
yes, I will. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and I'm sure we'll connect again in the future. And listeners, I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Thank you, Kathryn. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Heart and Soul. If this episode encouraged you in any way, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Talk to you next week.